What's going on,
Ooh.
everyone? Welcome back to this week's episode of Outside the Arena, and it's with Mac and Griff once again. That's right, Mac Rommel back in the flesh. We've got him back. He'll hopefully be back for a little bit at least, maybe longer. We'll figure it out. But yeah, Mac is back. The NFL going strong once again. But first off, Mac, how you doing? How you've been? Tell the viewers what's going on.
I've been good. Been away at college at Baylor, as you all probably remember. It's great to be back, and I'm excited to get right back into this episode. Back in Griff, and I'm excited to be here.
Back and better than ever. We're excited to be here. I'm assuming this is maybe going to come out on Christmas on the Sunday after. So if that is the case, Merry Christmas to all those watching. Please have a happy holiday. Please have a happy holidays. Hope you have a happy holidays. And yeah, you can make our holidays better. Drop a like, drop a comment, drop a subscribe. We'd appreciate that greatly. And yeah, we'll just dive right into it. We're going to start off as we usually do. And we're going to have some catching up because I haven't really, to be honest, we've talked a little bit about the season off camera, obviously, but we haven't talked too much. So there's a lot of things I think we need to catch up on. So I'm going to share the screen real quick, and we're just going to jump right into some of the big games from last week. And I mean, we already did. I forget what. All right, Saturday football. I think I might have talked about it, but I want to talk about it with you. The Indianapolis Colts and the New England Patriots. These are two teams that have really taken the headlines in the AFC recently. Obviously, New England, they're carried by that defense. It's been sensational. Yep. Matt Judon's been exceptional. Mac Jones has also played very strong. They've played behind the run. It's been a great year for the Pats. And on the flip side of the ball, the Colts, slow start to the season. I think they started 0-3, but they've just found their groove. And obviously, Jonathan Taylor, one of the best offensive players, one of the best running backs in the NFL. He's just carried them their whole way. You can see by this game. But Mac, kind of your thoughts on this game and the state of both these teams going forward.
I mean, the state of both these teams, I believe they're both top 3, top 4 teams in the AFC. Chiefs right now, they had that slow start to their season, but right now I think they're at the top of the AFC right now. And behind them, I'd honestly give it to the Colts. They've been a great team. As you said, they started off kind of slowly, but they've slowly built their team, and they've gotten so much better throughout the season. And you mentioned the one player that's carried them throughout this entire season, and that's Jonathan Taylor, a potential MVP candidate this season. He's been playing great. You don't even really have to pass the ball. And you see what Carson Wentz is doing, only 57 yards in this game. They still scored 27 points to win it. It's just unbelievable what Jonathan Taylor could do. And especially when you have that great defense, you could just run out the clock and win games like they did in this game. For the Patriots, I'd give them that 3rd or 4th spot in the AFC. Mac Jones, he's played great as a rookie. In this game, he did have a few mistakes. You see the 2 interceptions, but he still put up almost 300 yards without really any rushing game. You don't have the receivers, elite receivers, that are going to put up outstanding numbers for the team. But it's a great overall team, and I think their defense is a really big help to Mac Jones' success and this team's success this season. But overall, this was a great game, and the Colts, they are a great team, and I think they can make it far in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I don't know how much we did predictions. We probably talked about them somewhat standings, but the Colts were a team that I thought would win the AFC South. Obviously, it looks like the Titans will probably edge them out, but I think the Colts are by far this better team. I mean, I kind of talked about it previewing this team, but Jonathan Taylor, I mean, bias aside, because he's carried my fantasy team this year, and it's been delightful. He's just an exceptional talent. And this guy is, I mean, they found their foundation. And at the beginning of the year, you kind of saw them going with this 3-back committee. And that's what we talked about earlier in the year when we talked about fantasy and concerns with Jonathan Taylor. It's that there was Nyheim Hines. They just gave that lucrative extension to. Marlon Mack was coming back. He might be a pest. And that's kind of how the year started. Jonathan Taylor was getting about 15 carries. Some games he had like even 10, really wasn't involved in the pass game. And just slowly over time, he just absolutely took over the back row. And now you see, I mean, their whole offense is Jonathan Taylor. And that's what it is. I mean, 29 carries, 170 yards. He is the offense. And obviously, I think that Buffalo Bills game was the game where it kind of really started to sink in that this kid is truly elite. And he's just been exceptional all year. That defense, though, is also an outstanding unit. Darius Leonard has emerged as one of the best players. I think a top 5 defensive player in the NFL at this point. I mean, he is easily the best, I think, at forcing fumbles in the NFL. I've never seen someone quite like him. Seems like he gets one every game, but he's exceptional. I believe Kenny Moore was the cornerback that got just named to the Pro Bowl. Let's see. Yeah, so he's played exceptional this year. DeForest Buckner, obviously, everyone knows how good he is. But this is just a really all-around strong team. They play to their strengths, and we've talked about it in the past. We talked about it in the playoffs last year. The key to winning football games is running the football, and no one in the NFL does it as well as the Indianapolis Colts right now.
Yep, I completely agree. And as you said, we weren't really sure coming into the season how we would do, especially fantasy-wise, but he's gradually gotten his workload increased, and it's paid off. And it was really a big question. He had those explosive games at the end of last season, and out of nowhere, he just kind of took off, and now he seemed to become arguably the best running back in the NFL. A lot of these running backs in the NFL now, they're power backs. They can't really block, or they mostly block. But Jonathan Taylor, he could do it all. He could break off of a tackle and take it 50 yards to the house. And we're not seeing any other back in the league do this right now. Jonathan Taylor is the only back that we're seeing this year be able to do this and turn these small carries into big runs and break off for touchdowns. No other running back is doing it as good as Jonathan Taylor right now, and he is the key to the Indianapolis Colts' success this season.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it any better myself. Pat's obviously still a big threat. Moving on to another big game of the week. I mean, we're going to talk about your Dallas Cowboys further down. I'm not going to talk about them in this game because, I mean, the New York Football Giants are just absolute trash. We all knew that from the season. I mean, honestly, we can talk about this Lions game, I feel, just because the Arizona Cardinals, I mean, they're kind of looking like a fraudulent team at the moment. We use that word a lot on this podcast, but obviously Detroit, they're playing pretty good football recently. Amon-Ra St. Brown's kind of taken over. He's figured himself out. Obviously a 2-win team now, but Arizona, I mean, Mac, what are your concerns for this Arizona Cardinals team? A team that, it looks like they're going to be without DeAndre Hopkins for potentially most of the rest of the season, unless they make it really deep. And, Kyler Murray, he started off the year pretty strong, but he's absolutely had some slow games recently and is, obviously he's been injured, but I mean, this has got to be a concern, losing a team like Detroit in this fashion.
Yeah, it's a big concern. It leaves me to wonder what they're going to look like for the rest of the season without DeAndre Hopkins. They played hot. They started off the season hot. And throughout the time that they've had DeAndre Hopkins didn't necessarily look great, like that top 5 or top 3 receiver that we've known him as. But I do think he had a big part in this offensive success. Cornerbacks and defense were focused on stopping him, and that let all these other guys start taking off, like Christian Kirk. You had Rondale Moore, and all these guys who were able to continuously make plays.
Rondale Moore, that was your boy beginning of the
year.
That
was my boy. You had all these guys start to take off because everyone was so focused on trying to stop DeAndre Hopkins. And now that you don't have him, you saw what happened against Detroit. And I don't think they're this bad of a team where they're going to consistently lose to terrible teams. But it was just a poor performance offensively. You couldn't really get anything going. But James Conner, he's had an outstanding season. He's great in the red zone. He made the Pro Bowl. So your run game is decent. I think it's better than it has been in years past. But overall, this Cardinals team, they are not looking that good right now. And I am kind of worried for the rest of their season. I believe they're still going to probably win a playoff game, maybe, but I don't think they're going to make it far like we had thought they would a few weeks ago when they had DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, I mean, this is a serious concern, losing. I mean, Lions have played close with a lot of good teams, but no one has lost to the Lions or played in a game where it's been like this bad. I mean, this was ugly. I mean, this is a worry for the Cardinals defense too. I mean, you're not able to stop Jared Goff's offense with Craig Reynolds. I mean, no one knew this guy. Even still, maybe like 3% of people who are NFL fans know who Craig Reynolds is. And you can't stop this offense. I mean, that's a problem. And like you said, the offense struggles. I mean, D-Hop, if you look at the box score, it wasn't the best year of his career at all. He was very injured too. But like you said, he draws that coverage. He draws to the defenders. And that's the key. It opens up other possibilities. Obviously, this game, there was some garbage time. So you see some guys maybe have padded stats. But, I mean, they just really couldn't get anything going. And without D-Hop, I mean, to be honest, this offense is – I mean, they don't really have a true superstar outside of Kyler. I mean, James Conner, yeah, he's played good. But, I mean, you can't rely on James Conner in my mind. I still don't believe he's a exceptional talent. I think he's just gotten a lot of touchdowns and has been in a great system this year for him. Christian Kirk's been great, but, can you really make it far in the playoffs with Christian Kirk as your wide receiver 1 when you've got some of these teams in the NFC like the Green Bay Packers, like the Los Angeles Rams, even like the Dallas Cowboys, teams like that have just, exceptional talent all over the field. I'm definitely worried. Kyler has also got to play better. I mean, if this team's going to make it far, it's going to be because Kyler Murray carries them throughout the playoffs. That defense is, I think this was a bad game for the defense. I expect them to bounce back. But Kyler Murray, I mean, this team will go as he goes. This was not a good game. And, they just need to do a better job of getting him more involved. I mean, 4 carries for 3 yards for Kyler. I mean, that can't really happen. He's a player who, he needs to run the ball a little bit. He needs to use his legs, make things happen. So we'll see what happens. This is not a dagger in their season by any means, but it's absolutely a game that you have to look at and say, I was never really, I'll be honest, I didn't really think this team was going to win the Super Bowl, make the Super Bowl, but this makes you even think that this could be a first round exit kind of ball club.
Yep, I agree. And really quickly, I want to bring up the Detroit Lions. I mean, this might be one of the best bad teams we've ever seen. They stick close with whoever they play against. They're always close games. They always battle back, and this coaching staff has done a great job at producing this fight back mentality within its players. And I think they're turning these no-name players into guys who have potential in the league just by changing their mindset and giving them this dog mentality. The Detroit Lions have a great future because of this coaching staff. And I think in a few years, we're going to see the Lions as one of the better teams in the league. But as you said with the Cardinals, there are a lot of concerns for them. And as you said, they could be a first-round exit this year.
We'll see what happens with them. Obviously, Detroit, I mean, they're years away probably from contending. But like you said, it seems like they're building a good culture with what they've got. Packers, Ravens, we'll talk about.
Yep.
I mean, this is a good game. Obviously, Ravens without Lamar. Tyler Huntley, though, played way above his pay grade. I mean, this was an exceptional performance.
Yeah.
Honestly, probably was better than what Lamar would have done. Lamar has not been great by any stretch of the imagination this year. Mark Andrews, I mean, just what a superstar this guy's becoming. He's top 3 right now with Kelsey and Kittle in my mind. But obviously, Green Bay, I mean, this is a team that they look like they might be the favorites in the NFC. I mean, not even I think they are the favorites right now. This offense has played great. They've got a great tandem going at running back. Devontae Adams has looked great. Their defense has played great. I mean, what are your thoughts on both of these teams? Obviously, it's not great that the Packers, got this one as close as it was with no Lamar, but
Yeah.
I mean, that said, still a good win for Green Bay.
Yep, the Packers, as you said, they squeaked out the win, and the Ravens, what they could have done to win this game, they kicked that extra point, they bring this to overtime, and as they were trending upwards in that second half, it was looking like the Ravens could have won that game in overtime, but they decided to go for 2 and take that chance against the Packers, and it didn't work out. As you said, and I hate to say it, the Packers do look like they're the top team in the NFC right now, but I'm not so worried because they're going to choke in the NFC Championship like they have in years past, but Aaron Rodgers, he's playing like an MVP. Your backfield's great with Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. They could get it done. And most importantly, they get it done when you need them to get it done. If there's a crucial down, they'll be able to get that first down for you. They'll be able to score touchdowns, and they're just great. And as you said, Devontae Adams, he is just phenomenal, arguably the best receiver in the game. And I don't know if you saw that clip or anyone watching has seen that clip of Devontae Adams where they were triple teaming him on one coverage. I forgot what game that was, but it's just
it was this Ravens game,
he draws so much attention from defenses that it leaves other players open. Like I said with DeAndre Hopkins and the Cardinals, but Devontae Adams does the same thing, and he stays healthy, and that's why this Packers team is so good. You have other guys in the receiving core, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He's always been reliable. Alan Lazard. These are guys who might not be able to pop off every game, but they have those games where they're able to pop off and win the game for you if Devontae Adams or some of these other players aren't able to. And that's why this Packer team is so good. And for the Ravens, on the other hand, as you said, Tyler Huntley, he started and he had a great game. And I believe he was the first player to have 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns in a game in NFL history. That might be just for the Ravens or overall in NFL history.
Probably not. I can't imagine that's NFL history.
I saw that stat on Instagram, and it kind of blew my mind. So
I think there was something else with it, I think. Yeah.
But there was something with that. So he
broke some sort of stat.
Yeah. He had an outstanding game, a great performance by him, and I'm kind of excited to see what he can do in these next few games if Lamar Jackson is out, because he looks like he could have a future being a starting quarterback in the NFL. And as you said, once again, Mark Andrews, one of the best tight ends in the league. And this year, I think he's having the second best season by a tight end, only behind Travis Kelce. He's playing great, and they don't really have the receiving core or that elite receiving core that a lot of teams have that want to contend and can contend for a Super Bowl. But Mark Andrews kind of is that receiver for the Ravens, and he plays great. They have a great running game, and both of these teams are very good. The Packers right now, sadly, are atop the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, I think you covered that pretty well. Baltimore, I mean, this is a team that they've gone for two now twice, and they're 0 for 2, so I think they need to chill with that, obviously. But I mean, look, they're a solid team. This team's fought. They've battled through numerous injuries, but I mean, realistically, this team will not be, if they make the playoffs, they'll likely be out within a round, just because I mean they're just so banged up in so many areas. I just can't see them really going far. But maybe they'll win a game. They won a game last year, but I just can't see them getting out of the divisional round at least. And with Green Bay, I mean, this is just a team, like you said, that after week one, I really didn't know what to think about them. That was the week one game where Aaron Rodgers couldn't get anything going. They got blown out by the Saints. But obviously, this season has been completely shifted. They've played exceptional. Aaron Rodgers looks like his MVP self once again, even battling through that toe injury. And Devontae Adams is exceptional. Like you said, he draws all the coverage in the world, as he should. Aaron Jones, it's been more of a committee. I think fantasy-wise, if you've had him, you've been disappointed and frustrated with A.J. Dillon's involvement. But those two guys in tandem have been great. And, for the Packers, that's huge. They've got a strong rush game. That defense has played better than expected this year also. So guys like Kevin King, I mean, this was the laughingstock of the league last year after that playoff game. He's had a good year. So guys like that stepping up, making plays. Jair Alexander's obviously been out. Rasul Douglas has played well. I mean, there's just a bunch of guys on this defense that have played pretty well. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of all I got to say for that one. Green Bay, good team. Baltimore, they fought very hard, obviously. I mean, there's some good games left here. Saints Bucks.
Yep.
I mean, the Bucks just can't beat the Saints. It's kind of incredible, to be honest. I mean, you look at the stat sheet. If someone showed you this Saints stat sheet against Tampa Bay, I mean, you'd think Tampa Bay would win by 40. You wouldn't think that Tampa Bay didn't score a point. Obviously, the Bucks right now are in a world of trouble potentially. Chris Godwin tears his ACL. Mike Evans is out this week. Leonard Fournette, Levante David, all on IR. I mean, this team, it's just kind of a mess at the moment. Obviously, this is not a good game. What are your thoughts on the Bucks right now? Obviously, the Saints, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with them, but Tampa Bay, I mean, this has got to be a serious concern with the state of their injuries at the moment.
Yeah, the Saints, I mean, they're just so up and down. It's really hard to talk about them. You can't really tell what they're going to be. They're different week after week. It's something new. But for the Bucks, as you said, so many guys are going on IR and so many guys are injured. And this is a team who, honestly, I hate to say it once again, I think they're above the Cowboys in the NFC prior to this game. After this game, you see the injuries that they've had, and it doesn't look like they're going to be the same Bucks team. We're going to have to see if they can produce without Chris Godwin, Levante David, Mike Evans, Leonard Fournette, all of these guys who were so important to the team, respectively on the offense and defense. Tom Brady, he looked like he was struggling for a lot of that game when he had his guys out. And I think that might be something we see over the next few weeks while he's without Chris Godwin and Mike Evans this week, as you said. Defensively, Levante David, that's your guy on defense. He's your captain. He's your main man on defense who gets things done and takes command of that defense. If you don't have him, that's removing one of the key parts of this team. The defense might start struggling a little bit. They still have so much talent on that side of the ball with Devin White. You have solid cornerbacks, solid rookie and Joe Tryon. You have a lot of guys who still could get it done, but I think it's different when you're missing that 10-year plus veteran on that defense who's still elite at the linebacker position. It's going to be a struggle for the Buccaneers, and I think the next few weeks are going to be rough for them. And if they don't have these guys back in the playoffs, we could see them losing as soon as that first round.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to imagine with Tom Brady and some of the names. I mean, we're going to see what happens. And obviously Godwin's right now the guy who's out for the year, but the rest of them, I mean, they're expected to be back for the playoffs. And, that's the key. I mean, if they can get most of those guys back, this team is, even without Chris Godwin, they're still going to be in pretty good shape. If they can get Mike Evans, Leonard Fournette, Antoine Winfield's banged up, Levante David. If they can get that group back, it's totally different. But, I mean, that's the fate of the season is those four guys getting healthy. That's their offense. That's their defense. That's everything. Those guys mean everything in that team. Outside of Tom Brady, those are arguably four of the most valuable players on that roster. this was a bad week. Obviously, it was, mix and match with all the injuries. So take it out how it is. The Saints seem to always have the Bucs number recently.
Yeah.
So, good win for them. Obviously keeps their playoff hopes alive with the season they've been having. I mean, Ian Book is going to start this week because of the COVID outbreaks are just crazy right now. I mean, the NFL is, let's just hope it doesn't really hurt the playoffs because teams really could be, spoiled of a Super Bowl because of how crazy things are in the world right now. But yeah, with Tampa Bay, we'll see who can step up. We'll see what happens. AB coming back this week will probably be, that's huge. If you have him in fantasy, this guy could get probably like 10 catches. We might see some crazy stats coming out of AB, Gronk, to be honest. We'll see what happens. But yeah, definitely some reason for concern in Tampa Bay. All right. All right. We'll touch on the NFC, these guys later. I don't really want to spend too much time on them. We'll talk about last night's game, though. It was a great game. Titans, 49ers. Two playoff hopefuls. The Titans, it looks like they'll be a playoff team at this point. 49ers should be a playoff team. Obviously, you look at the 49ers, Deebo Samuel. This guy's been exceptional this year. Really has given them that second superstar on the offense with George Kittle. Obviously, he didn't do too much in this game. Nick Bosa has been exceptional. The Niners are a very good team. I don't understand how Tennessee keeps winning, to be honest. This team is – I just feel like Tennessee is so mediocre. Ryan Tannehill, just not even that good. He just looks not good. A.J. Brown obviously had a crazy game. Julio Jones, what a disappointment. That's got to be one of the worst trades, I feel like, in recent memory. I think they gave up, a first or 2 seconds, a lot for him, and he has just done absolutely nothing. I don't know if it's the talent. He's obviously been injured, but just seems like he's way past his prime at this point. But, what are your thoughts on this? Obviously, Tennessee, it just seems like this team just magically finds ways to win games each and every week.
Yeah, every week something happens with the Titans, and somehow they're sitting at 10 wins right now. And it's beyond me. And you look at the start of this game, that first half, it looked like the Niners had it easily. Yeah. And out of nowhere, that second half comes around, and A.J. Brown just comes out of nowhere and starts making these huge plays, miraculous catches. And he is really the reason why the Titans won this game. His ability to go make plays when they need it is just so important to this offense and this team in general. And that's why they're able to come out with some of these wins, just because of one or two players just having a spectacular performance at the end of games. If they didn't have these guys, or if they didn't just come out of nowhere in the second half, they wouldn't be winning these games. A.J. Brown, he has talent. He's coming off of IR, and it's really surprising that he was able to come back and bounce back the way that he did. The Titans, as you said, without Derrick Henry, they do not look the same, and somehow they're still able to squeak out wins. For the 49ers, Jimmy G, I still don't think he's the quarterback for them that'll carry them over the next few seasons and be that Super Bowl caliber quarterback. But Deebo Samuel, he is a star, and he seems to make plays whenever the 49ers need it. You saw at the end of that game, he had that 59-yard catch, and it led the team to go get that touchdown to try and go win the game after they tied it up. But, of course, it didn't end up working. But Deebo Samuel, he is a star. You could use him any way you want. And right now, he has the – what's the word for it? He has most touchdowns by a wide receiver rushing in NFL history. And it's just beyond me the different ways that you could use him. He's so shifty. He doesn't have that killer speed, but he'll still burn you from his elusiveness. Just he's a spectacular player, and I think you have to build your offense around him and George Kittle for the future. Jimmy Garoppolo, in my opinion, is not the answer at quarterback, but I still do think that they're going to make the playoffs. They have a great defense. You have a lot of pieces all over the team. It's just a few things that are missing from this team that could be upgraded, that could take this team from a playoff team to a Super Bowl caliber team. They're not there yet, but overall a great team. Both teams have great players, but the Titans, I'm not really sure how I feel about them. They have players, but they seem to not be able to get things done talent-wise when they don't have Derrick Henry. He's a big part of that offense and team, and they need him back if they want to make far and deep runs in the playoffs.
Yeah, you've heard that, rumors that he could come back. Who knows what the likelihood of that is at this point, but that's their season is if he can come back. Like you said, this game was won by A.J. Brown. He has a, good arm, by the way, that pass attempt. He got that ball down there. I was actually pretty impressed with that.
A little more depth on that thing, and that's a catch.
Exactly. But he was exceptional in this game, and we've seen that. This offense has, really leaned on him at times. I still feel like, he's been banged up all year. but we've still not really seen, his peak, his potential. And this game kind of shows what he can do. I think he'd be even, he's playing with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, and you see 145 of Ryan Tannehill's 209 yards, half of Ryan Tannehill's completions were to A.J. Brown. That's pretty insane. Like you said, Tennessee right now, their defense has played pretty well this year. Kevin Byard's been great. Bud Dupree, another nice addition. They've had good guys. Rashaan Evans has played good. They, picked up Zach Cunningham. They've got good pieces here and there, but, this is probably not a team that's going to be a Super Bowl contender. Even with Derrick Henry, with Derrick Henry, it becomes interesting, but, even without him, especially without him, this team's not going to do much. Their offense is just, it just, even if with this win, it just feels broken the way their offense is run. I don't know if it's Tannehill. I don't know if it's plays, but you see A.J. Brown running 4-yard slants, Julio Jones running like the same thing. It's just very confusing, some of these plays. It started the game, Ryan Tannehill was like 6 for 6 for 24 yards. And it's just like, what are you doing when you've got two of, the best potential deep ball catchers in the league right now, to the biggest deep threats, and you don't even use them. It's very weird. On the 49ers side, you covered it pretty well. This is a good team. Jimmy G, probably not the guy for the future, but honestly has played solid this year. I'll give him his props. He's won games for them. He's played well. He's done what he's had to. And this offense has got their pieces. They've got Deebo Samuel, who's really emerged. George Kittle is obviously a superstar. I think there was some doubt after last year. It was a little disappointing. Last night was nothing. He reaffirmed he is a superstar with his play this year. Brandon Ayuk has played pretty well since that whole debacle at the beginning of the season. That still is just so confusing. Juszczyk, obviously, he's always involved. And the defense, like you said, Nick Bosa, one of the best defensive players in the NFL. He's really a superstar. And they've got other pieces. Fred Warner's one of the top linebackers. Ibukam. They've got a bunch of guys. Jimmy Ward. You could go on for most of these guys. They've got a lot of talent. This should be a playoff team. I'm not too worried about San Francisco, but tough loss for them. This would have been a big win to get. Really would have probably affirmed a playoff status. But we'll see what they can do from now on.
Yep, Titans looking like they're going to win that division, as you mentioned earlier when we were talking about the Colts. 49ers, it's going to be interesting to see what they could do to make that playoff push. I think they could get it done, and I think they deserve one of those playoff spots. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out for both teams.
Definitely. All right. Well, with that, we'll go into our predictions for the week. And this is a team that we haven't talked about yet, but the Cleveland Browns. This is a team that coming into the year, both of us said might be the AFC favorite, and boy, were we wrong. 7-7 Cleveland Browns. Obviously, his team's been bombarded with injuries all year. They have, the most COVID cases in the league right now. But even with that, it's been a disaster of a year for the Browns. Baker Mayfield has not played good. You had the whole Odell Beckham debacle. He's obviously gone. This is a team that they just need some reshaping in certain areas. Wide receiver, one of those, potentially quarterback. Is Baker Mayfield the answer? I don't know. We'll see. This is all stuff and speculation for the offseason. I'll start here. I think the Green Bay Packers essentially eliminate the Cleveland Browns from the playoffs this week. I can't pick the Browns in this game. Nick Mullins, as of now, is still going to start. I don't believe Baker Mayfield or Case Keenum is off the COVID list yet. So another disaster potentially brewing. We'll see the Browns, attempt to lean on Nick Chubb again, but Green Bay is just too good. Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones in Lambeau Field, Christmas Day. It's probably going to be snowing, of course. There's just no way the Cleveland Browns win this game. This will be the Green Bay Packers. I'd probably say this is my lock of the week, not even looking at any of the other matchups, to be honest.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything that you said. Packers, I believe, are going to have an easy win here. And it really sucks to say this because I was really rooting for the Browns this whole season, as were you. This was our team, as Griffin said. And it sucks to see how things have turned out for them this season. Wide receivers, they haven't been playing the way that we thought they would play. OBJ, he's, of course, not with the team anymore. And a lot of us thought OBJ was the problem, but it might not be OBJ. It might be Baker. And the quarterback might be the issue that the Browns need to fix if they want to get back to the team that me and Griffin thought they would be this season prior to the season starting. Packers, overall, they have too much talent. And I think Aaron Rodgers is just going to make his case even better for MVP after this game ends.
Yeah, obviously the whole Baker Mayfield thing with his injuries, and he's the most banged up guy, arguably, right now. I mean, it's just a mess. We're at that whole situation with, being able to determine what's what. But yeah, Packers for both of us, not even a question. Moving on to this next game, Colts Cardinals. This should be a pretty good game. Another Christmas Day matchup. I'm going to go with the Colts here. I've kind of ridden with the Colts all year. I've picked them a lot, so I'm going to stick with it. I think this is a good team. I think Jonathan Taylor will perform. I don't think the Cardinals, looking at last week, how Jonathan Taylor did against New England, no team can really stop him. The only team we've seen kind of slow him down a little bit was the Bucs, and honestly, that was game script that really screwed him. They didn't really start running the ball till late second half against them. So I expect Jonathan Taylor to put on another strong performance. The Cardinals after last week, that's just a concern. The way the Colts defense has played recently, I think Kyler Murray could be in for a rough evening. He might be. I was going to make a Christmas fun, but I'm not even going to buy. I'm going to go with the Colts in this.
Well, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. The Colts, I believe, are going to win this game. As you said, Jonathan Taylor, he's too good. He's just going to run everywhere and all over the Cardinals this game. Their defense is great. Without DeAndre Hopkins, it's going to be another case like last week where we see the Cardinals offense really struggle to put up numbers, put up points, and gain yards against the great defense. And the Detroit Lions defense isn't even that great, and they still were able to hold them to 12 points. So I'm excited to see what the Colts defense is going to be able to do against this Cardinals offense. And I really think the next 2 weeks for the Cardinals are going to be a true test of what they're going to be like in the playoffs. You have the Colts, and then you have the Dallas Cowboys, two teams who are fighting and can potentially make a run in the playoffs. If the Cardinals struggle against these two teams, I think they're going to really struggle once they get to the playoffs. So these next 2 weeks are going to be very interesting to see how the Cardinals play.
Yeah, absolutely. Lions, Falcons, I just want to check real quick. The Falcons 6-8. In the NFC, I guess that's holding out hope for a playoff spot. This is interesting because the Lions have been playing well. The Falcons, kind of a weird team. I'm still going to pick the Falcons, though, at home. I think Cordell Patterson is going to, he's really burst onto the scene this year, even though he's like 30, I don't even know. He's old, low key for, that position. He's been, excellent special teams player for years, and now we've seen him really emerge as a superstar with the Falcons. But he'll bounce back. He had a bad week last week against San Francisco. That's a tough defense. This will be a lot easier for them. I expect Matt Ryan to have a better week. Russell Gage has really, with Calvin Ridley's absence, he's really emerged as a solid threat. Kyle Pitts, we were high on him coming into the season.
Yeah.
It's been a little disappointing, I'll be honest. I think it's, tough with that offense. They haven't used him too much. He's had really good games. That, game against the Jets in London was exceptional. He's had great moments, but definitely underwhelming. Definitely has not been that, potential top 3 fantasy tight end we talked about earlier, way back when. But I'm still going to go Falcons here. I think, for various reasons, they're just a better team here.
I'm also going to go Falcons. However, I do think the Lions can pull this out. They've always been in these close games, and I think against a team that's worse than the Cardinals, after beating the Cardinals, their expectations are going to be much higher than they were previously, and I think they're going to play a lot harder just to show the world what they could do. So I think the Lions are going to put up a good fight and could potentially win this. But the Falcons, I think their offense is better. Their defense is a little bit better. You have A.J. Terrell, who was snubbed from the Pro Bowl. He's great. Offensively, you have Kyle Pitts, a little bit disappointing, as you said. But I think the Falcons overall are just a better team right now. The Lions, it's going to be exciting to see what they could do against this Falcons team this week.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on to this next game. This is an interesting game. Rams-Vikings. Vikings in, must-win situation. I'm actually curious to see how their schedule ends. So they've got the Rams, the Packers, and then the Bears. So, that's a really tough finish to your season. Realistically, you're going to have to win one of these games against the Rams or Packers. The Rams are probably the team that you're going to have to try and beat. They've been a little shaky recently, but they've performed better as of late. They beat the Seahawks last week. I'm going to go with the Rams here. I think they're just the better team. Cooper Kupp, what a sensational season from him. That, came out of nowhere, to be honest. Nobody was even considering Cooper Kupp to be that kind of guy this year. What a season it's been. Obviously, they've got an interesting running back situation. So Cam Akers was designated for return or whatnot, which is very interesting. Or he was activated off like the PUP. I don't even know. He was activated off something. And so he's potentially going to make his way back from a torn Achilles for the playoffs. But Darrell Henderson, he's been good all year. Sony Michel seems like it's kind of transitioned to more of a committee as of late. we'll see what happens. But I'm going to go with the Rams. Minnesota, no Dalvin Cook, obviously, too. He's got COVID. So,
Yep.
I believe he's also unvaccinated. So I think he might be out next week potentially, too, which is not a good situation for Minnesota, a team that needs these next 2 weeks so desperately.
Yep. I mean, if you have Dalvin Cook, you can put up a fighting chance, but I still probably wouldn't give it to him. I'm going to take the Rams here again. Looks like we're agreeing on almost every game so far this week.
Which means that
the Rams,
all of these will be wrong.
Yes, probably. But Rams, you have Matt Stafford, you have Cooper Kupp. As you said, Darrell Henderson, Sony Michel, possibly Cam Akers. Like, they're getting all these guys who could do and put up great numbers and big numbers on offense. And I think there's nothing really to talk about with that Rams offense. That's great. Defensively, you have stars. You have Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Von Miller, who got his first sack last week with the Rams. You just have a lot of players who can get it done. I don't think it's the Vikings have enough to stop the Rams and put up points against the Rams this week. You have Justin Jefferson, obviously a great receiver. But without Dalvin Cook, you're obviously going to be focused on stopping that passing game, and you're really going to be non-existent on both parts of that offense, running and passing. Rams, I think it's an easy pick for me this week.
All right. This next game is, the Jets need to lose this week, to be honest, for draft capital reasons. 3-11 Jets, 2-12 Jaguars. I honestly feel like the Jaguars are the better team, so I'm going to pick them in this one. I mean, the New York Jets, Zach Wilson has not looked good by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he's had a few flashes, but it's just been a disaster for the Jets. I mean, Michael Carter's looked solid at times. Elijah Moore has had his moments, but overall, I mean, what a disaster. This team just seems like they're in a sunken place right now. I just don't see them competing with this roster for a few years more, at least. I mean, it's sad to say. Jacksonville, I mean, they looked a little bit better last week. Urban Meyer, obviously, out of there. James Robinson seems to have more of a role now. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to go with the Jaguars in this one. I just think they're the better team. I feel like they'll figure out a way to win. And the Jets are just their own worst enemy. I don't know. The Zach Wilson pick, I think, is going to come back. And, once again, they'll not have gotten it right at quarterback is the feeling I'm getting. But hopefully that changes.
Yep, this is the battle of the first two picks in the 2021 NFL Draft. And I'm going to go with the first overall pick as well. I think the Jaguars are going to win it. Urban Meyer, firing him and getting him out of there. I think that's the biggest thing that this team needed in order to have success down the line. They did that. And now I think this team is going to start taking some turns where they're going to start making plays and they're going to start winning a few more games. Trevor Lawrence, he's solid. He had a lot of potential. Both of us, we didn't think he was that top quarterback in the class, but he's still a great quarterback nonetheless and has tons of potential. I think Urban Meyer was kind of limiting him as he was limiting other players, like you said, James Robinson. The team, they have peace and they've been building for a few years now. So they do have players who could get it done. They just haven't been able to yet. So I'm going to take the Jaguars, Jets. They still have a lot they have to do with that team. They're very young. They don't really have veterans that could help this team out like the Jaguars do with Marvin Jones. And I think that's the difference between these two teams is veterans versus the young kids. And the Jaguars have those veterans, and I'm going to take the Jaguars.
Yeah, Jets are a long ways away. Philadelphia Eagles, it's a surprise team that's been competing for the playoffs. We both thought, I believe, that this team would not be very good. Jalen Hurts has played well. He's also played bad at times. But another thing with this Eagles team, I hate to say, I mean, they haven't really been any good teams. I mean, if we look at their schedule, who they've beaten, they've beaten the Falcons. They've beaten the Panthers. They've beaten, the Lions, the Broncos, I guess was a good win. New Orleans, so inconsistent. The Jets, football team. I mean, the best team they've beaten, it's just the mediocre one. They haven't had any great wins. If this team somehow manages to get in the playoffs, they'll be bounced immediately, probably in ugly fashion. I'm going to take them in this game, though, at home against the Giants, who, with no Daniel Jones right now, I believe it'll be Mike Glennon potentially again. I don't think it's Jake Fromm. I mean, the Giants are just an absolute disaster. I mean, this is one of the worst run football teams in the NFL. I've said it on this podcast before. I'm not even trying to be a Giants hater. It's just an unfortunate situation what's happening. They're missing on their first-round picks. They're making bad signings. That's hurting their cap space. I mean, that Kenny Golladay signing is just that's probably, honestly, the worst signing from the offseason, I would say. I really can't think of another one that's been worse. Maybe like a Ryan Fitzpatrick because he played one game. But, I mean, Kenny Golladay even, you're eating that money for 4 years now. and he's not even involved in this offense. I mean, it's a joke, honestly, paying all that money for someone who you're not even going to use. Saquon Barkley has not looked the same since injury. He's, been fine, but the O-line, I mean, they've missed on their picks there. Kadarius Toney, I've said it. He looks explosive, but he's just injured all the time. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Eagles will win this game. New York Giants, I mean, you've got to make a move at quarterback this offseason. Even with this bad class, I mean, it's just time to move on from Daniel Jones. And that's evident, as well as Dave Gettleman. You've got to get a completely different decision maker. You got to clean the house, honestly. I think Joe Judge has got to go. I think Dave Gettleman, everyone's got to go. You just need a total clean slate next year. General manager, head coach, quarterback. I mean, this team might even need to blow everything up and just literally restart from scratch. I don't even know.
Yeah, Eagles, I'm taking them. Easily have the better team, have the better coaching staff, and that's all I have to say. The Giants, they do have pieces, and I think they're up there with the Eagles with the amount of talent that they have on the team. But I think the coaching staff is just atrocious. They suck, and there's nothing else to say. They're misusing everyone that they have. They sign these big names like Kenny Galladay. They misuse him. They don't target him. They don't do anything with the players that they have that are good and have talent. It's all because of the coaching staff, the team. It's just terrible. You have players on both sides of the ball. You have Saquon. Obviously, he's not going to be the same because of injury, but your receivers, they're pretty good. Kenny Galladay, Darius Leonard, you have Kadarius Toney, all these guys who have high expectations, and they're just not doing anything because the coaching staff doesn't get them involved and doesn't use them right. And honestly, I think if they have a better coaching staff, this Giants team could be up there and be a middle of the pack team in the NFL. But they don't have that. They don't have any sort of good coaching staff, not even mediocre coaching staff. They're terrible, and that's the reason why they suck. Maybe if you get some new coaching staff, better coaching staff, better head coach, definitely a better offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, he's all right. The defense is doing a solid job, but offensively, they are terrible, and it's just because the scheme is bad. I mean, there's no other way to put it. The Giants, once you get a new coaching staff, I think that'll help tremendously. You have decent players, but Daniel Jones also has to go. He's not going to be that quarterback that can take you to the playoffs, and definitely not the Super Bowl. So with the Giants, I think you have to go get a new coaching staff, get a new quarterback, and I think just doing that will tremendously improve this Giants team.
Yeah, seems like the Giants are headed for a offseason of a lot of change, or at least they should be. This next game is a great game, Bills Patriots. I mean, this is I believe the Pats would clinch potentially the AFC North with or not North, AFC East with a win, maybe not. But I mean, this is a big game in New England. I mean, this is going to be a completely different game than that other game. Obviously, that was the weirdest game with the weather, the wind.
Yeah.
It was snowing, or I think it was raining. I don't know. It was something. It was a disaster of a game. We saw New England attempt like 3 passes, I believe it was. Something crazy. This one's a tough one for me. I honestly am going to pick the Buffalo Bills. I think they're going to make the adjustments. I think New England got beat last week. I think, Mac Jones, he's played good, but he's not perfect. And I think we kind of saw that last week. I think Buffalo, they're going to make their adjustments. They're a good team. They're obviously dealing with some COVID. Gabe Davis and Cole Beasley have COVID. I still think this team has the pieces to win. And I think Josh Allen, he's just got to be the best player on the football field in this game. He is, not performed up to expectations this year, to be honest. He's had a solid year, but, it wasn't anything compared to last year. It's been a step down. He's got to step up. This team, honestly, this is another team that was looked at as a top 3 team in the AFC, and they're not in that conversation anymore, unfortunately. We'll see what happens. Maybe they can change their tune with a win, big win this week. I'm going to take them. I think they'll make their adjustments, but it's going to be a good game for sure.
Yep. I really can't pick against you. I'm also going with the Bills this week. The Patriots, I mean, Bill Belichick, he's proven he's a great coach, and he really wasn't carried by Tom Brady. They're sitting at 9-5 right now. This team is great. With a rookie quarterback and you're doing this well, and you have a great chance to win the division. I mean, it's outstanding what the Patriots have been able to do this season, but I think the Bills, they are the better team. You have Josh Allen, I believe, still a better quarterback than Mac Jones by far. You have better receiving core with Stephon Diggs. Your running game still has to improve, and I think that's something we talked about a lot last postseason and offseason. Is just they have to get that running game going. And once they do that, I think this offense will really be taking that next step towards being a Super Bowl caliber offense. Defensively, they're good. And I think they're going to be able to stop the Patriots offense. I think they're both on an equal level. talking about the Patriots offense and the Bills defense. So I'm just taking the Bills in this game. I think they're a better team, and I do think they have that potential to be a great team in the league, but they haven't shown it yet this season.
Next game, Ravens-Bengals. I mean, who would have thought the Cincy Bengals would be winning this division? It's honestly crazy. If someone told us that at the beginning of the year, we would have thought they were delusional.
Hey, what did I tell you? I told you the Bengals were not coming in last over the offseason, and you didn't believe me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. This team still could come in last. So they lose out. They may be in last place, though. So we'll see. It's obviously been a great season for Cincy. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, Joe Burrow. Great offense. And that defense has stepped up. And I'm going to pick him this week. I don't think Lamar's going to play. I think we're going to have every single pick the same, honestly.
Probably.
Oh, my God. But, yeah, I think they're just the better team. I think Tyler Huntley, he looked amazing last week. He's going to regress this week. We're not going to see that same level of performance. It's just inevitable with him, unfortunately. And at home, and we saw what the Bengals did in Baltimore last time to the Ravens. It was ugly. Jamar Chase had a fantastic game, the best game of his career with 200 receiving yards. So we'll see what he can do this week. I just think the Bengals, the better team, I think they'll separate themselves a little bit from the Ravens this week, extend that division lead, and really look to punch their ticket into the playoffs. And it's crazy. I mean, Cincinnati, they a few years ago, number one pick 2 years ago, and look at them all of a sudden winning the division. This is one of the best rebuilds we've seen in recent memory.
Yep, I'm sticking with the same pick as you. Bengals all the way. I knew they weren't going to be a bad team. No one believed me, but I didn't think they were going to be this good. For the Ravens, I think it's going to be another close game, but the Bengals are going to be able to squeak it out. If Lamar's in, I do think the Ravens would probably take this win. But the Bengals, our offense is clicking. They're young. They're fun. They're just exciting to watch. And they're obviously having a great time on that field when they're playing together. And I think that is why this offense and this team has been playing so well. They're just clicking. They're enjoying their time and they're having fun. And I think that's one of the most important attributes a football team could have is just enjoying yourself and playing like you enjoy the game of football and love it rather than taking it seriously like a job. And the Bengals, they're young and they're doing that. Ravens, as I said, Lamar Jackson's in. I think they would win this game. But the Bengals, they're too exciting right now, and I think they're going to take out this win at home.
I mean, this next game, I don't even think we really have to talk about. Chargers, they've had a good year. They're a good team. Justin Herbert's played great recently. They'll win this game. Houston, Davis Mills. I mean, they're just we've heard there's been rumors David Culley might be out after 1 year. Just an absolute disaster of what this team is right now. We'll see what happens with Deshaun Watson in the offseason. But, I mean, what a nightmare for the Houston Texans. Just in a state of no one knows what's going to happen. They don't have their future quarterback. They don't really have any pieces for the future. I don't even think they had did they have a first round pick this year? I don't even think so.
I don't think so.
I can't remember them making a pick.
I don't think they do.
And they don't pick again. Do they pick this year? No, right? No, they might pick.
I can look that up.
I think they have their pick. I don't even know though.
I'll look this up.
I know they didn't last year. Someone must have had it last year though.
Houston. Let's see this.
Miami had it last year.
Actually, they do. They have the third pick right now.
Okay, so I mean that's the start of the rebuild. Is this year? This year was just a placeholder. Honestly, they've got a bunch of veterans just trying to make it and extend their NFL careers. Mm-hmm. They'll get killed this game. Yeah, already talking way too much about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I have to say anything. Chargers, much better team. Texans suck. Simply put, Chargers win.
Moving on to the next game, Bucks Panthers. A lot of 1 o'clock games. I feel like. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Back to 8 1 o'clock games. Oh. I'm gonna go Bucks here. To be honest, I just really think the Panthers are bad. No Christian McCaffrey, even with Cam Newton. I mean, he's been bad recently. To be honest, he had that great first game against Arizona, but since then it's just been a nightmare. They just haven't been able to get going. He's honestly played fine, but he's just had mistakes here and there, not had his best performances. We've heard Sam Darnold might get in there a few snaps. I mean, they're Panthers are another team right now that honestly though they're kind of a quarterback away from being a serious contender. I feel they've got a lot of pieces. The defense has played pretty well. Offensively, Robbie Anderson has kind of been DJ Moore looks good. CMC, who knows what to expect out of him for the future. But in this one, Tampa Bay, even banged up. AB should be in there. Gronk, Ronald Jones, I think will play well. And that defense, I mean, they've still got guys, like you've said, Devin White, Vita Vea. They've got big names. They've got players that'll step up. I still think they're the better team in this matchup. So I'm going to go Bucks here.
Yep, I agree with you. I do think this is a game where we could see an upset just because the Buccaneers are lacking all those pieces, but I just don't think the Panthers would be the team that could pull off the upset. If it was another team, I think it's possible, but the Panthers, they just don't look the same like they did those first 3 weeks of the season. Bucks, they still have a lot of great talent, and I don't think they're stopping Tom Brady. A bad team is going to be able to stop Tom Brady even when he doesn't have his weapons. So I'm going to take the Bucks this game.
Bears Seahawks. This is an interesting one, to be honest. I honestly am going to pick the Chicago Bears in this one. I mean, the Bears have been a nightmare. Matt Nagy, crazy. He still is the head coach there. Justin Fields, obviously, it's been disappointing to say the least. To start his NFL career. It's a bad situation, though. I mean, I don't know what's going on in Chicago. They honestly seem like they're drifting towards a kind of a teardown. I mean, Allen Robinson, he's never been involved this year. I mean, he's going to be, I mean, I feel bad for him because you've got to think his contract's going to be severely different than what he would have received last offseason. So that sucks for him. Obviously, he'll be on the first plane out of Chicago once the season ends. Who knows what they expect? But honestly, Seattle has just not been good this year. Russell Wilson, I mean, I don't know what it is. I think Pete Carroll honestly might need to go. I think his time is coming to an end as the head coach of the Seahawks. Nightmare season for them. They also, I mean, both these teams honestly are in the need of a teardown, but Seattle's screwed. I mean, that Jets trade with Jamal Adams was one of the worst. I mean, I feel like I've said that a lot today, but I mean, I talk about it a lot, but that it's just coming back to haunt them. No first round pick, no nothing. Russell Wilson, you're obviously going to get a haul for him. You have to trade him this offseason because the defense is starved. There's no talent there anymore, honestly. And the offense has not been good recently. A rebuild's coming. I mean, this is it for the Seahawks. This will be the last year, I believe, Russell Wilson will play quarterback for them. I'm going to go Bears.
I agree. I'm also going to be taking the Bears, man. I mean, we were really not switching up on picks. I thought this was going to be the game where we finally didn't agree, but we're agreeing once again. I'm taking the Bears. Justin Fields has a lot of potential, hasn't lived up to it this year, and I think a lot to do with that is the offensive line. He doesn't really have the protection he needs. As you said, Allen Robinson, he hasn't really done anything this year. Darnell Mooney seems to be that receiver that he's been looking at the most in this offense, and he's been playing solid. I think the Bears, they're just clicking slightly more than the Seahawks are this season. So I'm going to take the Bears this game. Seahawks, they're just a complete mess right now. They're not clicking. They have talent, but they just can't seem to click. And the Bears, they don't even really have this talent, but they're clicking much more than the Seahawks are, and it's very disappointing to see that the Seahawks season has ended up this way, or the way that it has so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, do you think Russell Wilson's gone after this year?
I mean, he has to be. This team just isn't the same. I mean, you have DK Metcalf, you have Tyler Lockett, guys who he's clicked with in the past, but for some reason this season, just nothing's working out for any part of this team. And I think Russell Wilson needs to get out of there for his own career. And I think for the Seahawks, it'll be better for them if he leaves and they start focusing on a different future. That Russell Wilson era in Seattle, it's over, and he's not going to be able to bring this team back to another Super Bowl anytime soon. So I think it's time for him to get out of there.
All right, this next game, let's see if we can figure Broncos Raiders. I mean, this Broncos team, I mean, this is a playoff eliminator here. Both these teams 7-7. I do not know how the Denver Broncos are in this position. I'm going to be 100% honest. I know that defense has played well. They've run the ball well, but I mean, with Teddy, I mean, this is going to be Drew Lock this week, obviously, after Teddy B. Luckily, he seems to be okay after that scary injury. I mean, what the hell? I mean, this team, one of the worst coach teams, arguably. The wide receiver, Jerry Jeudy isn't even, I mean, Jerry Judy's career is just, I mean, I don't even know what to think about Jerry Jeudy because coming out of college, he was so elite, and all of a sudden it's like, we haven't seen anything. There's nothing he's done in the NFL. I mean, they don't even use him. They gave those receivers, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick the bag. I mean, those guys get, 2 catches a game, 2 targets. I mean, it's the most mind-blowing team in the league, 7-7. The Vegas Raiders, I want to pick them in this game, but knowing them, I think they're going to lose. So I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos, to be 100% honest. By that smile, I think you're going to go with the Denver Broncos.
No, I'll let for something else.
Okay. I mean, I don't even know. This is just a nightmare of a season. Not even a nightmare, but it's just the most confusing season. Javonte Williams, though, I'll just say he looks like a superstar for Denver. I don't know what the hell they're doing. Drew Lock, this is the biggest game of his life. I mean, we'll see what happens. If he really performs, this could be their quarterback. This is his chance. And if he does terrible, I mean, that's his career. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to go Denver. I think this is just the most Raiders game that they'll lose with the playoffs potentially on the line, and they just have no chance on it. And they just, I don't know. This just seems like a Raiders loss more than a Denver loss. I don't know.
So I was gonna take the Raiders, and then I remembered something. I remember that Darren Waller is not going to be playing, and that's the deciding factor. If Darren Waller was in, Derek Carr to Darren Waller, I would have had to pick him. That's who I was going to pick. But now that I've finally remembered that they don't have him, I have to pick the Denver Broncos away at the Raiders at Las Vegas. Oh, man, as you said, Drew Lock, this is a game for him to – it's a make-or-break game for him for his future and his career in the NFL. This will determine whether he's going to be a backup quarterback in the league or whether he could be a mediocre starter in the league, and we're going to have to see. They have the weapons on offense. It's so weird. They just don't use them, and that's the problem. As you said, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Javonte Williams, he's breaking out and having a great season. And I think he's going to be the future running back of this Denver Broncos team. Defensively, they're still very good on that defense. You have Bradley Chubb. You have some guys who can make plays on both sides of the ball, but for some reason they haven't been able to click. I just think right now the Raiders, without Darren Waller, after that Henry Ruggs incident and everything that the Raiders have been through this season, it's just been a mess. And I'm going to go with the Broncos. They're a more complete team right now, and I think they're going to click better than the Raiders tomorrow or on Sunday when they play.
Oh boy. Steelers Chiefs. I mean, this is interesting though, because if Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce, they're both on the COVID list right now. If neither of those guys can clear the COVID list, this becomes a much more interesting game because all of a sudden those Chiefs offensive weapons, I mean, they're just, not much. So I don't know what to think. I'm going to go with the Chiefs regardless because I think they're just the better team. I think Pittsburgh, the Big Ben, it's just crazy that this team is 7-6-1. I believe that's their record. Mind blowing with how bad the O-line is, with how bad Big Ben is. It's crazy. I'm going to go Chiefs here. Even without those guys, I think they'll still get the job done. That defense has played so well recently. It's crazy the turn that they've taken from the worst defense in the league to arguably one of the best. I mean, it's crazy. I don't know what happened, what changes they've been making, to be honest, 100% honest. I should look into it more. I know they're running a little bit more. They've changed some of the personnel. But, I mean, what a year. Kansas City all of a sudden back on top, the number one seed. And people were worried. People were saying that this team couldn't get it done. They were 3-4. I mean, it's crazy. And now they're 10-4.
Yeah.
And, I think they'll go to 11-4 this week.
Yep, it's crazy. I'm picking the Chiefs regardless whether they have those guys or not. I think once Patrick Mahomes is hitting on all cylinders and is playing at his best like he is right now, it's hard to stop him no matter who's on the field. He just will find a way to make plays, whether it's with his legs or with some crazy off-balance throws or sidearm throws. It's just crazy what Patrick Mahomes could do when he's at his peak during a season. He's at that point right now. I think it's going to be very hard for the Steelers to come away with a win this game. Big Ben, he just sucks. They have a decent receiving core that could get it done, but I think they do need a better quarterback if they want all those guys to be playing at their best. And I think that's the next step for the Steelers is to get a new quarterback that'll tremendously help out that offense. Defensively, you have probably the defensive player of the year with TJ Watt. So he's obviously going to be a big part or play a big role in this game against the Chiefs and trying to disrupt this offense. And it could happen. I could see the Steelers somehow coming away with the win here if TJ Watt is playing as good as he has been this entire season. But right now, I think the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, they're all playing at their highest level this season. And it's going to be hard for me to root against them this game. So I'm going to have to take the Chiefs.
Yeah, I agree. Finally, to your Dallas Cowboys.
Finally.
Micah Parsons. I've seen Skip Bayless talk endlessly about Micah Parsons on Twitter. He loves him. Obviously, one of the best players, the best rookie, Micah Parsons, obviously. I mean, we were skeptical. I remember back to the draft. Obviously, he had those personal issues. That kind of was the reason he fell out of potentially the top 5. And, we were a little unsure. We thought the Cowboys, you really liked J.C. Horn. That was your guy.
I did.
Obviously, he tore or broke his ankle. And Pat Surtain was another guy. Dallas got neither. They ended up with Micah Parsons. Obviously, it's all worked out with Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs. I'm going to pick the Cowboys in this one. I think they're the better team. But just, give your thoughts on the state of the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, that offense has been a little shaky recently.
Yep.
Kind of weird. But your thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys? Obviously, I think they'll win this game. I'm sure you're going to agree. You're not going to pick against them here. So, yeah, let's hear it.
Yep, I'm going to take Dallas Cowboys simply. And let me just talk about this team for a little while. The defense, they've played outstanding. And to come back from being arguably one of the worst defenses in NFL history, and now to being the top team in takeaways this season, it's just mind-blowing what Dan Quinn has been able to do to this defense. And just being able to get some guys who could fill some small roles and not be out on the field all the time. They don't have to be these starters and these star players who have to consistently be out there to make an impact on the field. But you're seeing what they're doing with the safeties. You got 4 different safeties: Donovan Wilson, Malik Hooker, Jaron Kearse, DeMonte KZ, and all these guys are just getting rotated in and out just to make plays, and they're never really tired. And I think that's a big part of this defense, is that safety play and how you can put in all these different safety combinations. They can go out there and make plays. Cornerbacks, Trayvon Diggs, he's obviously taking that next step to being an elite quarterback and one of the better cornerbacks in this league. I don't think he's there yet. He's obviously that ball hawk and cornerback right now. But a lot of Cowboys fans will just overhype him. And I hate to say it because I love Trayvon Diggs, but he's a little bit overhyped. But he does what he has to do. He gets that ball. He makes and creates turnovers. And I think that's important. Micah Parsons, outstanding. Don't really have to say anything about him. You can put him at middle linebacker, he'll make plays. You put him at edge rusher, he'll make plays. He just plays defense, and that's what's great about him. You have DeMarcus Lawrence back, Randy Gregory back, and they're getting pressure on the quarterback. This defense is just hitting on all cylinders when they need to, and I think that's what's going to help the Dallas Cowboys make a run in the playoffs, because those past times that they've been in the playoffs, when they played the Rams a few years ago, it was the defense that killed them. They let up over 30 points. They couldn't stop the run. The Cowboys have been great at stopping the run this year out of nowhere. And it's great to see. And then you see what they did against the Packers a few years ago in 2016 when they lost. I think if you had a better defense, you're able to stop that Packers team and get that win. And I think the Cowboys finally have that defense to be able to make plays and help this team win games when the postseason comes around. And offensively, we know they have all the stars, but Dak hasn't been playing at that MVP caliber level that we saw at the beginning of the season. He hasn't been the same since that calf injury, and he has to step things up if he wants to go to the Super Bowl. The rest of the team is on point, but it really all comes down to Dak. If he could elevate his game these last few weeks and into the postseason, the Cowboys could do well in the playoffs and make a run for the Super Bowl. But it all relies on Dak and if he can get better or not. And that's my take on it. It all relies on Dak for this postseason run for the Dallas Cowboys.
I agree. I think it's it's an interesting team. Zeke has not been amazing recently. Tony Pollard's looked good, but there's just a lot of pieces. We'll see what they can do. It's an exciting year for Cowboys fans, obviously after last year's disaster. But it's a competitive NFC, which is unfortunate. But as the 2 seed right now, you're matching up with Minnesota. That's a great first round matchup to have at the end of the day.
Yep. Couldn't agree with you more.
All right, this last game. Let's see if we don't pick the same one here. Ian Book making his first career start against Tua Tagovailoa, and the winners of 6 in a row, Miami Dolphins, who have miraculously saved their season after starting 1-7. I was really bashing them, bashing Tua, bashing this whole team, but they figured it out. Jalen Waddle, an exceptional season he has had. But I'm actually going to pick the New Orleans Saints in this game with Ian Book. It seems like we might actually disagree for once. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Saints. I mean, and I think the one player that will decide this game is Alvin Kamara. I think he's the best player on both sides of the football. I don't think there's a person who can stop him. I mean, he obviously got cooped up last week against Tampa Bay, but that's arguably the top rush defense in the NFL. I'm not going to really take too much into account of that. I think he's going to run all over this team. I think Ian Book, he'll be ready. He'll be able to get the job done. He's not going to be looking to get 300 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns. He's not going to be expected to do that. He's just going to have to get the ball and hand it off to Alvin Kamara. And I think this New Orleans Saints defense, it's a good unit. They've played good all year. They've played strong. I'm starting them in fantasy defense, so that's kind of why I'm hoping that they're going to play well against Tua and Jalen Waddle. But I think this is going to be one of those games that we'll see each of these teams in the 20s or so of points, to be honest. I think I truly believe Alvin Kamara is going to have one of those weeks where he is just sensational. puts 100, easily 100 plus scrimmage yards, 2-3 touchdowns. I think we're going to see that. And I think we'll see too, I believe Waddle's back off the COVID list. I believe we'll see him have a lot of success. He's been exceptional this year. He's been, the best rookie receiver. Honestly, as good as Jamar Chase has been, I think there's an argument Jalen Waddle's been better. Jamar Chase is just very inconsistent with that offense at times. It's very tight between the two. I'll say that. Devonta Smith has not been, he's been good, not as good as those two, obviously. I'm going to go with the Saints. I've talked a lot. I don't know. In New Orleans, in the Superdome, must-win week. Sean Payton, I feel like he's going to get it done. I feel like they'll get the job done. I expect a big week out of Kamara.
Yeah, both teams in a must-win situation, and this is where we're going to have our first disagreement. Just to spice things up a little bit, I'm going to take Miami. As you said, that 6-game win streak. Tua, he's played better. I still don't know if he's the guy for them. The run game's You have Jalen Waddle. Defensively, you have a great cornerback group. And I just think the strides that they've made as a team this season is going to be what leads them to win this game versus the Saints. The Saints are too inconsistent for me. I do believe they have a lot more talent than the Dolphins, but with Ian Book starting, we're not sure what he could do, how he'll play. And I'm not going to take the chance on a rookie quarterback starting his first game in the NFL in a crucial moment. I think he's going to have a lot of nerves in this game, and we're just going to have to see how he plays. But just spice things up a little bit. Give me Miami.
Pretty impressive. We almost agreed on every one the week back. I mean, I don't know. I can't remember too many times we did that last year. So
yep.
Honestly, pretty impressive. Interesting one.
Right.
It's going to be a good week, and a lot of teams, especially in that AFC right now, where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams have records of 8 or 7 wins in the AFC right now. So, yeah. You cannot, even with those, teams that we're high on, Cincy, Indy, Chargers, and Buffalo, there's going to be some shakeup with the playoffs. Not all those teams will be in there. And it's going to be interesting to see out of, the Browns. I don't think the Browns will make it, but Miami, Denver, Las Vegas. There's playoff eliminators, I think, easily. If Miami loses, they're done. Vegas, Denver, whoever loses, their dreams are done. If Pittsburgh loses, probably done. We'll see what happens. Is there anything else you want to touch on, or you want to wrap this one up?
I think we're all good to wrap this up. It's been a minute since I've done this, so it'll be interesting. But thank you, everyone, for watching this week's episode of Outside the Arena. Finally, once again, with Mac and Griff, we're going to do many more of these, and I hope I'll be on this more now that I'm adjusted to college and things like that. I hope you have a great holiday season. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and also follow us on our Instagram, Outside the Arena Podcast, and check us out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, which is also Outside the Arena on those two. Once again, happy holidays to all of you guys, and we'll see you all next week.